Hi, this is Ofori, the digital reader, and today I'm going to be talking about why I'm giving up Audible and who I'm upgrading to. But kind of first, I wanted to start out with I've been an Audible user basically since audiobooks have been a thing, and I've really enjoyed the service. I like building up credits. The way I use Audible is typically the way I use a lot of these subscription services is um, I'll pay for a couple months, get some credits, get some books, then in my membership, catch up on my books. And if I'm lucky, they'll send me an email with a, hey, come back and we'll give you a special deal. But no problems, been very happy with Audible. But recently, when Amazon decided to change some of its ebook policies, I kind of decided just maybe I should look and see what other audiobook services are out there. And there are a lot. I was very surprised by finding out how many audiobook sellers and services there are out there. So I kind of started going through them. Once again, not planning to switch, but just feeling like if something happened, maybe it'd be good to know what the landscape is out there so I would know where I would go if I decided to leave Audible. But that definitely got put on hold for a while because I discovered Libation. And there's an app that's called Libation, which basically you can use this app to download your Audible audiobooks onto your computer. So I could back up my stuff. I was very happy. I just kind of decided to chill and, stick with Audible until I ran into a couple apps that one of them was just flat out better than Audible. I didn't expect that. I'm not a person who has no morality, no loyalty. I just try and pick the best thing for me. And one thing I realized when I was looking around is that there were actually audiobook sellers who sold DRM-free audiobooks and who had some other cool stuff that was nice to have in an audiobook service. I came down with two services that I'm going to be using, Downpour and Libro FM. I chose Downpour because Downpour is, well, first of all, Downpour pretty much works like Audible, where if you don't have a membership, don't bother getting anything. It's crazy expensive and not worth your time. But for $12.99 a month, you get books at you get audiobooks at a discounted rate, and you get a credit a month, and you can buy more credits at $12.99. So that's cool. But the huge kicker of Downpour was that 70% of their library are books that you can download to your computer DRM-free once you purchase them. That's one huge plus for me with Downpour. As soon as I saw that, I was like, I'm a DRM-free guy. Sign me up. The other cool thing about Downpour is when you go to look at books, they give you a couple options. You can download the book as an MP3. You can download the book as a MB4. I always mess that up, but I think that's the format, MB4, which is the audiobook format. And you can have them send you can actually buy a physical CD of the audiobook, and you can choose whether you want that physical CD to be in audiobook format or in MP3 format. And I just never really thought about that if you see a book you really like, with Downpour, you can actually buy the audiobook on CD. When you get the CD, you can then burn the CD onto your computer, and you now have the stored physical audiobook someplace where you keep your CDs if you still keep CDs, and you can have the file of the audiobook stored someplace. So that was really, really cool. that Downpour did not end up being the main solution for me because, to be honest, it just wasn't as good as Audible in a couple ways. The biggest way it wasn't as good as Audible is it just didn't have as many titles as Audible. It has, I won't say a fraction, but it definitely has much less books than Audible has. And one of my big things that I truly love about audiobooks is BBC radio and listening to radio shows and things like that. And they really were slim pickings as far as radio shows and BBC radio that I could listen to. And the other thing is, you had the credits where you could buy for $12.99 a month, but still I felt some of their books, if you weren't using a credit, were a little pricey. And that's fine. You can actually, when you think about it, because you can use credits, one nice thing is you can buy extra credits at $12.99, which kind of means that no book you buy is more than $12.99. But the main thing that was a turnoff for me was the limited library, and the if you wanted to purchase a physical CD, those were also kind of pricey, and you could not use credits for those. So the physical CDs were like $30, which, if it's something that I really enjoy or something that I'm really into, maybe it's worth it. But really, I just like the novelty of being able to buy the CD and have it sent to you. And the prices vary, but I found that those prices weren't that good. So I like them because if there is a book that they have, then the audiobook, the digital audiobook will never cost more than $12.99 if you're paying the monthly $12.99 subscription. And that pretty much means that the book will never be more than $12.99 because you can always sign up for a month at $12.99 and then cancel your membership once you buy the books that you want and purchase all the credits that you want. But once again, they don't have a great selection. They don't have a ton of radio stuff. But still, one nice thing that they do is even if you cancel your membership, if you have a membership for 1 month, they'll kind of like put you on their book list. And every day you'll get like a super cheap book in an email that's kind of like their book of the day. That's usually under $5, that even if you cancel your membership, you can go and buy that book, and they're almost always under $5. I would say about 65% of their books, maybe 70%, but about 65% of their books are DRM-free, which means you can download them. If it's a book that has a DRM attached, then when you go to download it, it will tell you in the information about the book that it is a book that has DRM. But the main service I went with, and the service that is just flat out better than Audible, at least in my opinion, is Libro FM. And Libro FM, it basically costs 1 penny more. Well, actually it costs 5 cents more than Audible. But here are the cool things about it that for me make it a better service. The first thing is that you can choose a local bookstore, and that local bookstore will receive a percentage of all of your audiobook purchases. So I think a lot of people would think that's a cool feature. For me, I only buy digital, and I feel like, at some point, physical bookstores are going to be a thing of the past for the most part. But still, that's a very cool feature if that's something that would interest you. The other cool feature is they have very good prices. If you're not paying the monthly membership, then the books are super expensive and it's not really worth it. But just like so many of these services, you can pay for a month of your membership, and then during that month, you can buy credits and buy all the books that you want. And for them, their monthly membership fee is $14.99, and their credits are $15. So if you've paid the $14.99 for the monthly the monthly subscription, then no book is going to be more than $15. The other huge plus is this also is an audiobook seller that sells their audiobooks with no DRM. And for them, I would say about 75% of their books have no DRM. And they have a much larger selection of books than Downpour. I would say their selection rivals Audible. They have tons of radio stuff and BBC radio. When I was looking through, I went to my wish list for Audible, and every single book that was on my wish list for Audible I could find on Libro FM. So that is another huge plus for me. So I had to ask myself, why am I still on Audible? Audible has DRM, and even though on Audible I can download the books and pull the DRM off of them, I'm kind of reaching a stage where I'm realizing if I download books with DRM and pull the DRM off of them, I'm not letting those ebook sellers know that as a buyer, I prefer to spend my money on ebook stores that have books that do not have DRM. As far as they know, I'm buying a book with DRM and I'm fine with it. So I feel like for me, I definitely would rather go to a service that has legitimate no DRM books and give them my money. And hopefully that will make other services realize that is a preferable thing for people. So Libro FM, I highly recommend. Like I said, you can download your ebooks. They of course have an app that you can put on your phone or your tablet, and you can play stuff through their app. And anything that you download, you can play on anything that can play MP3 or MB4 files. So if you're on iOS, then or have a Mac, then you can just use Apple Books to play your audiobook files. You can just drag them on and bam, they're good to go. If you're on Android, then I've heard that there's a good audiobook player called Smart Audiobook Player that you should be able to use. I'm going to have to play around with that. I don't use Android that much, but I've heard of Smart Audiobook Player, and I'm sure there's a ton of other players that you can use to play your MP4 files. But what's so nice about having Downpour and Libro FM, and both of them being services that let me download my audiobooks DRM-free, is I can bounce back and forth between them and my books aren't stuck in either service. Libro FM is kind of my main, and I really just use Downpour to, if they send me an email about a really good sale, then I can buy that book without being a member, and it's usually under $5. But Libro FM is my main right now, and that's what I use if I'm going to be buying ebooks. And typically what I'll do is, I'll get a membership. I'll keep that membership for a couple months, and during that time I'll stock up on, maybe during that time of maybe 1 or 2 months, I'll buy like 6 audiobooks and then cancel my membership. And one nice thing about adding a membership and canceling a membership with most services, but audiobook services too, is a lot of times they'll send you an email where they'll give you a deal. Like if you sign back up for a month, we'll give you 2 extra credits. I'll definitely take advantage of that. I strongly recommend Libro FM, or at least you check it out. It helps support your local bookstore, has great prices. It works very similar to Audible, and you get to download your audiobooks DRM-free. Like I said, 75% of the stuff in their catalog is DRM-free, and it's not just fan fiction stuff. It's like decent sized names. For example, I'm a big fan of Patricia Briggs, and she's a pretty well-known author, and I listen to her Mercy Thompson books as audiobooks. And those books, once I bought them on Libro FM, I was able to download them. I could definitely see people kind of keeping Audible if you're using the app that I recommended, Libation, because if a book has DRM, then I probably would buy it off of Audible and then download it and pull a DRM from it. But I'm really trying to avoid doing that. So I guess in a way, Audible is kind of like my third choice, where I use LibreFM as my main. And if there's something that has DRM on LibreFM, then I'll probably buy it on Audible and then download it using Libation. But so far, I haven't ran into anything that I wanted to read that had DRM, and they have a very decent sized library. I hope this was interesting to you. This is Ofori, the digital reader, and keep reading.